Shalom, and welcome to the Parasha Pod. I'm Rav Mordechai Rosenberg, here with Rav Menachem Liebtag, and we are talking Torah together. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's time to learn.
Tisa.
Yes.
And Mordechai, before you start, I want to dedicate today's share. We had very unfortunate news in my personal life. A very good friend of mine's daughter, unfortunately, passed away in childbirth yesterday on Purim. A wonderful family. Name's Racheli Dykman. Married name was Wiener. Was the third child. Wonderful family, giving family, like tzaddikim and everything. And it was beautiful. What they said at the funeral was that, she was such a giving person that even when she died, she gave life. So, and in many ways, it's almost like, our own situation, middle of a war, many people giving their lives now. We're at war. And, to give life, sometimes you have to do dangerous things. And we hope that in her zchut, God will watch over us and help us, another Purim miracle, hopefully. And we'll go from, today we went from Yagon to Simcha, Simcha to Yagon. We should end with Simcha again. And we should only hear good news.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for that. Okay. I'd like to start firstly by recapping what's going on in this parasha. There's a lot of things going on. We've got the half shekel, the kiyor, the wash basin. We've got a few leftover things from the completion of the instructions of the building of the Mishkan. We've got the anointing oil, the incense recipe, Betzalel and Ahaliav's appointments, who are going to be leading the building. Shabbat is mentioned again. And then we've got the Egel, Hazahav, the golden calf, followed by Moshe's attempt to get forgiveness for the people. So
it's too many topics for one parsha.
Yeah. So I want to focus on the golden calf for this talk, and want to start with a question from a listener. And so the question is this: are we into images or not? Seems on the one hand that from the golden calf story, images are a terrible thing. We have one of the Ten Commandments about it. On the other hand, it seems the Mishkan is filled with images, whether they be the statues on the Aharon or the pictures of Kruvim that are commanded to be drawn on the curtains or the tapestries. And we know it's quite common today for Jewish people to feature pictures not only on their walls, family pictures, but pictures of tzaddikim, righteous people, Torah scholars, and they utilize them as part of their religious practice. So are we into images or not?
So when you say we, you can be referring to we, the Jewish people, or we can mean humankind, all civilization. It's part of civilization. People need images to represent ideas. You can't give an award, like an Emmy Award, Oscar Award. You have to have some type of trophy. You give someone a medal. It's human nature that if you have something important, some idea, you need some physical object to represent it. That has nothing to do with commandments. That's human nature. The question is, what do they represent, and how do they affect your behavior? Now, your point about these images, in fact, we just had Purim and people dressed up called masechot. So right after the sin of the golden calf we read this week, God clarifies, Elohim masecha lo tasalach. Don't make gods out of using some type of a mask, which seems to indicate that related to what Aharon was doing. So I'll try to walk through with you the way I understand Chet HaEgel, because I'll ask you a question for a change. There's one opinion that the people believed that this calf made out of gold took them out of Egypt. Right. Which, does that make any sense? Why would God punish people for stupidity?
Right. It's a tough one. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think that...
So to believe that it's mamish idol worship, and they just said they know God took them out of Egypt. They just received the Torah. Right. On top of that, it's Aaron's idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Aaron's idea. You wouldn't expect Aaron to be leading them to actually worship an idol and say that it's actually another god. But then on the other hand, you have the problem that if we want to kind of justify it a little bit and say, oh, it's a bit more understandable. But on the other hand, the reaction to it is extreme.
Why does God want to wipe us out for listening to our leader and making a symbol of God? So either way,
even when God forgives us, He still sends Moshe, and Moshe gets the tribe of Levi, and they go and slaughter 3,000 of the people that were participating. It's pretty intense. Clearly, this is something way, way beyond the pale.
So what I want to share with you, I think it's something not theological, it's something behavioral. I want to go back to what we discussed coming out of Egypt, that when Am Yisrael was in Egypt, God wants to redeem His people. They're not ready yet to be God's people. We were hundreds of years living in Egypt. Our culture is Egyptian. When we studied the story of the Exodus, we had to get rid of our Egyptian culture to be ready to accept our new God. That was Ani Hashem Elokechem. That was the meaning of the Passover. Taking an Egyptian God, and sacrificing it, eating anti-Egyptian bread. We had to do many actions to show God that we're ready to serve Him. And God wants people ready to be dedicated, to want to serve God and understand why they're serving God. So the goal is not just taking the Jews out of Egypt. The goal is not only bringing them to the land of Israel, is becoming a nation in Israel that can represent God and keep His commandments properly. To do that, you need to sort of change their culture and get them back to serving God properly. That's a big undertaking to do, and it's an educational one. And all the events that happened from the time we leave Egypt, first the plagues, and then splitting the sea, and then the manna, remember? And then we had the Mara experience, and then the manna, and then the water in Refidim, the war with Amalek. It took all those experiences to get them finally at Har Sinai to say, we're willing to listen. Remember, they're waiting finally to accept that breed. Because up until then, they have this attitude problem. Remember, they believe in God, they hate Him. Why'd you bring us out here to die? They know God is powerful, but how come they think that God just wants them dead? He's always just punishing them. And God's trying to explain to them, I want you to serve me, I want you to understand how great I am, but you have a job to do and a set of laws to keep to serve me. But it's an educational process, it takes a while. How do you check when is someone ready to graduate their preparation to become God's people? What happens when the teacher's out of the room? What we like to say in yeshiva knows when yeshiva boys are in yeshiva learning is fine. What happens during what's called bein hazmanim, during vacation time? In a controlled environment, a classic case is when you give a test with an honor system. If someone's watching, if you have a proctor, less chance people will cheat. Will they act the same way with a proctor, without a proctor in the room? How well are they trained, to be honest? What I want to claim is God's leaving Moshe Rabbeinu on top of the mountain on purpose until something happens. And this is the final test before we go to the land of Israel. And I'll try to walk you through the way I understand it. At Har Sinai, we enter a covenant to be God's people, and God gives us a short set of commandments in Parashat Mishpatim. God promised something at the end of Parashat Mishpatim. In fact, now that we, because of the war going on and we have to be near a shelter, so we're doing it on Zoom this time. So luckily I can share my screen. And I want to show you something. This was the last commandment in Parashat Mishpatim that the people were given. Remember, God promised them, I'm taking you to the promised land. And again, as long as I have this source sheet open, Rashi claims, it's mamish idol worship, which is hard to explain, that how could they believe in another God? Ramban explains it's idol worship, these words, but it's worshiping the right God the wrong way. Rabbi Yehuda Levi in the Kuzari goes that direction. I think pretty sure Ibn Ezra does as well. So I want to discuss that difference in idol worship and idol worship. That was idol worship is worshiping the wrong God. Idol worship is worshiping the right God the wrong way. And later we'll get to ideal worship. We'll see that soon. Mm-hmm. But God promised Moshe to tell the people, we're going to the promised land. And then after the loss of Parashat Mishpatim, God tells them, I'm sending an angel. I'm going to send a malach in front of you to guard you on the way to bring you to the land that I got ready. This is in chapter 23 in Shemot, verses 20 through 23 we're going to read. And be careful. Make sure to obey this malach I'm sending, because he can't carry away your sin. But im shema tishma b'kolo, if you obey this messenger that I'm sending you and do everything I say, then your enemies will be my enemies and your adversaries will be mine. Because God's promising to send someone, it has to be a human being who talks to them, sent by God, who can punish, but can also reward. And says, if you listen to my messenger who's going to give you commandments and obey what I'm saying, I'll help you conquer the land of Israel. And here's the big line, Kelech malachi lefanecha. My malach, my angel, or my messenger, will lead the way in front of you and bring you to the land of the seven nations and help you conquer them. Now, if you heard this, you would think this is Moshe Rabbeinu, right?
Hold on. Well, I don't know. I might think it was a literal malach.
Well, I need someone who talks, and someone who talks on behalf of God. And just let them. The description sounds just like Moshe Rabbeinu, because how did they defeat the Egyptians? It was Moshe, wasn't it? How did they defeat Amalek? They fought a war before. They fought Amalek. What helped them defeat Amalek? Moshe Rabbeinu, remember?
Yeah.
Now, Moshe representing God. Now, it would make sense that they think Moshe is going to be this malach. The question, what's going to happen when Moshe doesn't come back? We'll get to that soon. Now, and when Moshe doesn't come down, if you remember at Har Sinai, Moshe goes up for the first 40 days, and he doesn't say how long he's going up for. He says, me and you, we're going up until we come back. Aharon and Hur are in charge. Now, if Moshe didn't tell the people how long he's going up for, and that seems to be the simple read of the Psukim, they would definitely wait a couple of days and a week, wouldn't they? That's for sure.
Yeah.
Would they wait a year? I doubt it.
Probably not. Yeah.
Sometime between a week and a year, they'll reach a conclusion. He's not coming back.
Right.
What's the
problem? Probably didn't help that they saw the top of the mountain.
He went to a ball. Remember, Moshe goes into a ball of fire in the end of chapter 24. Mark for Hashem ki shochel et rosh hahar le'nei Bnei Yisrael. You see Moshe walking into a ball of fire. Now, they go to Aharon and listen what they ask Aharon. The people didn't see anything. They understand that Moshe is delayed in coming down from the mountain. They gather in Aharon, and what do they say? Now, Elohim can mean a power. Remember, like a Ruach Elohim, Rachefet al Pnei Mayim in Bereshit? Radak explains that way. I have that here also. Like it could be a powerful wind. But Elohim is any type of power is Elohim. They want a power that will lead in front of them. And why do they want that leader? Because Moshe, who took him out of Egypt, who was that power, we don't know what happened to him. Now, they know that Moshe is only representing God, correct? What was the last time?
Well, I mean, supposedly they do, but in here they say like accuse
Moshe to do before miracles?
They say they're giving Moshe all the credit for taking them out of Egypt, which is obviously offensive to God because he quotes that back to them later.
What is Moshe holding in his hand all the time?
The stick, the staff.
Right? And what's that stick called? A Mate Elohim.
Mate, yeah.
Remember? It's Mate Elohim. It says when we fight Amalek, we just read it Purim morning.
Yep.
Remember? God tells Moshe tells Yeshua, "Kach chanashim b'tzedach Amalek, machar anochi nitzab rosh hagiva u'mateh Elohim biyadi." This powerful stick, this powerful rod is in my hand, and therefore Moshe's hands are heavy because he's holding up this big rod, which represents God, and that's why the rabbis say when they looked at that rod, which was a symbol of the God they're fighting for, and as the rabbis say that it wasn't the Moshe's hand that did the war, but rather their understanding that they're serving God that makes them worthy of God helping them in battle. So the idea of having a physical object that rallies them in battle and helps them defeat their enemies makes sense that they thought that would be Moshe and his staff. If Moshe is not coming back, what can they do? They can't stay in the desert forever. That's not an option. They could go back to Egypt, but been there, done that. They have to give all the money back. They'd be back in slavery. The most logical option would be to go to the land of Israel. That was their plan. But they need this malach that God promised to lead them. Look again the wording. God said, Kelech malachi lefanecha. Now that Moshe's gone, they need a replacement for this malach. Right? Therefore, that's they're not asking for a God. They're asking for Elohim Asher Yichud Lefanenu, a power that will lead the way. Because Moshe, that was supposed to be Moshe, and now Aaron do something for us. They don't tell Aaron to make an ego. Aaron is in a situation now. He also doesn't know. Maybe he said to wait, but how long can we wait for? We're going to go to Israel. We need a symbol of God leading us to Israel. And Aaron's got a great idea. He says, give me your gold. Let's make a symbol of God that will represent the God who took us out of Egypt. And we'll bring him there. And that'll lead us to Israel. Aaron means well. Remember, he collects their money. Now, we'll talk about...
Hold on. So at this point, are you saying that the Jewish people are saying they want a symbol of God?
They want a power. They want a replacement for Moshe to help them conquer the land of Israel.
Right.
And they go to Aaron, and Aaron comes up with this idea to make a physical symbol. They don't ask for a physical symbol. They ask for something powerful to replace Moshe. Aaron knows it's not him. So Aaron says, let's make something to remember this event. Now, what does he do? If we remember, but a couple of weeks earlier, a week or two earlier, at Har Sinai, Moshe read the Brit outside, remember, out loud, and they had this whole ceremony, and they saw the leadership group, the Aharon, Nadav, Avihu, and the 70 elders saw a vision of God, and the bottom of his feet was the brightest thing, whatever that means. And they ate and they drank korbanot. There was a whole celebration at Sinai. And
very strange landmark.
Yeah. And remember, he told when he goes up the mountain, he tells the elders, stay here until I come back. And then, remember, they saw this vision of fire and going up on the mountain. And that's the question, are they asking for a God or for a leader? I think they want Aaron to be their leader, but Aaron wants to take something to lead them. And the last time they fought, Moshe had this Mate Elohim biyado. That was the war with Amalek we saw. And in all the Makot, it's either Moshe's hand or Moshe's or the rod, the Mate in Moshe's hand. But that's always representing that God is fighting for them. I need that physical symbol. Now.
Okay, so you're saying they're trying to replace Moshe and Moshe's staff.
Something powerful. I need a power to conquer the land. I need a B-2 bomber or a F-15 or F-35, F-22. I need military help to conquer the 7 nations of Canaan. So what does Aaron do? Aaron tells the people, give me your gold, which they do. In verse 4 of chapter 32, Vaikach mi adam. He takes the gold, he puts into a mold. Aaron makes it the egel, but yaseu egel masecha. He makes, now why an egel? There's lots of different reasons, but the pasuk, the way Chizkuni explains, in the vision of Yecheskel, when he sees this vision of God, remember there's the 4 faces, but one of the feet are what's called regel yishara, v'kaf raglim k'kaf regel egel. The book of Yecheskel, chapter 1, verse 6. The vision they had was something that looked like a calf, whatever that might be. The way I understand it is that all the gods in ancient times were sitting on pedestals, and the ancient pedestal was either some type of a cow or a calf or a ram or something like that. And having a pedestal with nothing on it is saying that you have an invisible God. Rabbi Yochanan goes in that direction. But keep that in mind. We'll use this to explain later something about the Mishkan. Either way, he makes this ego representing something, this masecha. And what do the people say? This is the power that took us out of Egypt. Remember? Right beforehand they said, what did they ask him? Moshe took us out of Egypt. Remember? Why did they go to Aaron?
Yeah.
They tell him, Kizem Moshe ha'ish asher lanu me'eretz Mitzrayim. We don't know what happened to him. And now, Kizem Moshe ha'ish, who took us out of Egypt. So they believe that Moshe took them out of Egypt with God's help. And now that Moshe's not with them, I need something else to replace Moshe. And now they see this Egel that Aaron made is replacing Moshe, or the power that Moshe had to conquer the land. Now Aaron wants to make sure they understand this representing God. Look what he does. Vayar Aaron, he builds an altar in front of it. Vayikra Aaron vayamar Chag Hashem Achar. He takes a symbol of God to make sure it's a symbol of God, of Yud Kei Vav Kei, of Hashem. He puts an altar in front of it and says, let's make a celebration. And we're going to celebrate just like at Mount Sinai. We bring Olot Shlamim, we bring sacrifices to God, and we eat and we drink. It's almost a copy-paste of what we did a week or two earlier when we said Nasa V'Nishma. when we get the promise, God's bringing us to the land of Israel. And Aharon really means well, but something goes wrong. And the key difference is
Yeah.
in this eating, in this part, in this celebration, they get wild. What's chok mean? It's some type of laughter, something frivolous, but Chazal say it could be idol worship, it could be, all the big three. You name it, they did it basically. What I want to claim is this chok is simply an indication of their bad behavior. The way it's not something theological. The way they behaved at the party showed God they're not ready yet to be his people. And what are they celebrating? I hope I don't hurt anyone's feelings here. They're celebrating military power. Is the symbol of God going to be something that reminds them of Hashem Ish Milchama? Listen to Shirat Hayam, to the Song of the Sea. Everything is about God, the powerful God who defeated the Egyptians. The God who's about to defeat the enemies of Canaan. It's a very militaristic song, which makes sense. Right. The people were slaves. They can't wait to conquer and become their own nation. The question is, this symbol, what does it mean to them? Is this a powerful charm? Remember when later on, when the two corrupt priests in Shiloh, Eli's sons, take the Aharon, the Ark of God, out to battle, thinking that's going to help them defeat their enemy. It doesn't work because they weren't following God properly. I need a symbol of God to remind me that God is in charge of the battle, but also to remind me that God can help me in the battle on the condition I'm dedicated and ready to keep his laws and represent them properly. If the symbol of God is only a magical force, and I really don't care about acting in a way that represents God, I just don't want God fighting for me, then the ideal of military power overrides the ideal of becoming a nation of representing God. And their excitement about this ego that Aharon made, they're just hoping they can become the new power in the Middle East, defeat their enemies, but they have no desire to act in a way that sanctifies God. And God sees that in their behavior. So Aharon means well. Aharon means well, but the behavior at the party gets them angry, and I want to prove it to you from the Psukim. We'll see what happens when they come down.
So hold on. So
why is God so
you're saying Ve'yakum Letzachek is almost like it's really not explicit about what they did wrong. They just showed that they went wild. They weren't capable of showing that they could be God's people. And this is a continuation of what you see as a flaw in the praise given in Shirat Hayam for God being an Ish Milchama and being too militaristic, and saying like the real thing that we love about God is that he gives us military might, and then they associated that with Moshe as the leader and Moshe's staff as being like a magic, weapon that gave them, military power, and just like the children of Eli. And then that's what they did with the golden calf. They basically said, okay, we now have a weapon. There's nothing wrong with
attributing God to the military power. The question is, how do you behave afterwards? Believing in God is great, but again, are you a consumer? And I love this God because he defeats my enemies for me? Or I want to serve this God and become a nation representing God and act in a sanctified way, keeping his Torah properly. And in light of that, God's able to help me, but I have to be worthy of his help. Right. So again, are we working for God or is God working for us? And the way they behave at this party that Aharon throws shows God they're nowhere ready yet to be God's people. It's not a theological problem. They don't believe in some cow that took him out of Egypt. Rather, they believe in God, but the whole relationship with God is all about power and military power.
Can you maybe flesh out where you see that focus on military power more? Like, is it in, like, I know in Shirat Hayam but that's Moshe talking, like.
No. Shirat Hayam is wonderful, but if that's your entire religion, remember in Shushan, when we bring the Torah back, first place, we ask, who's Melech HaKavod? Is Hashem Ish Milchama? And then we ask the question again. Then we say Hashem Tzvot Melech HaKavod Tzela. One element of God is his military power, and he can help us win wars, and we have to thank him for that. But that's not what it's all about. We're not serving God so he can help us in battle. The goal is not being a military power. Military power is a tool that we need to establish a nation and then act in a way that represents God properly.
Wow.
When I wish
so important for this week, hey?
I could bring from modern day events, I could bring tons of examples. I don't want to get myself in trouble. But there's so many people who are so excited about being God's people, but they see it, because God can help to defeat our enemies. And that's wonderful. Don't get me wrong. But the question is, what do you do after God helps you defeat your enemies? How are you going to behave? What will be your culture afterwards? Now, as we'll see soon, the Mishkan is going to be a kosher egel. Because when we finally build the Mishkan and leave to Israel, what leads the way? The Aharon. Vayibitzu Aharon v'yomar Moshe, Kum Hashem v'yafutz oivecha v'yinusu misanech mipanecha. God, get up and defeat our enemies. And when we cross the Jordan River, the Aharon leads the way. When we defeat Yericho, God leads the way. But blowing the shofar, the Aharon is a symbol, again, made out of gold. We build an altar in front of it. It's almost the same thing. But in the center of that symbol is our covenant of Na'aseh v'nishma, the Ten Commandments, the Torah, the guidebook, and the commitment to be a nation representing God and how we behave and how we act as a nation. So if that's our behavior and we're committed to that idea, that's exactly what the rabbis say with Moshe's hands with Amalek. When they were dedicating themselves to God, they'd be winning the battle. So I need a symbol. I need what's called a nes to show, like a banner, to represent who I am as a nation and the God I'm representing. But that comes with the responsibility of being a nation that serves God properly. And now I want to show you how God's displaying with their behavior. Listen to what God tells Moshe when he comes down. Have we had the word shichet before?
Yeah, with the flood. I mean, it's that
flood, exactly. Now, the sin of the flood wasn't idol worship; it was corrupt behavior. Remember, but chapter 6 in Bereshit.
Right.
We know what Hamas is. And unfortunately, it's what the Arabic being flipped around, and now it's totally corrupt behavior. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not idol worship, and there's so many parallels between the flood story and Har Sinai. Remember the 40 days and 40 nights, and finding favor in God's eyes, and God saying, "I'll destroy everyone, make you the only one." When God says "Ki shichet amcha," that's not idol worship. That's bad behavior. Right? The land you took out of Egypt, they going astray from the way I commanded them. Derech Hashem, ever since Bereshit, was doing tzedek u'mishpat. That's righteous behavior. Okay, they made a symbol of me from this egel, and instead of that symbol representing their connection to God, they bowed down to the symbol. Instead of davening at the kotel, they daven to the kotel. Instead of davening at a grave, they daven to a grave. Okay? And what do they say? Oh, this is the God who's going to took us out of Egypt and help us. The symbol becomes the God. And it's a symbol of power, but not a symbol of dedication, dedicating your life to serving God. It's God working for you instead of you working for God. Which I claim is the main problem of idol worship. That's why I call it idol worship as opposed to ideal worship. Worshipping an ideal of military power. Again, don't get me wrong, you need military power to defeat your enemies. But the purpose of the military success is to set up a nation that's going to serve God properly. So when all the excitement...
just to be clear, when you're saying that the danger of idol worship is that the symbol of God, that we get power from God in order to be just and moral and sanctified. But if we get the symbol wrong, then we think that the symbol serves us itself as a source of power, and then we just forget about the requirement to be moral.
When people see a mezuzah as a magic amulet, but don't know what's written inside, and the Parasha of Shema, what they mean, like keeping the mitzvot, then things get wrong. When you need ritual to remember your relationship with God. When the whole religion becomes the rituals and there's no content, and the behavior isn't sanctifying God, but it's all these magical things. So this is a skula for this. There's a value in skulot, in amulets and things like that. But they come with education, what they represent. When that's the entire religion, that's when it gets. That's how can you have people believing in God but acting immoral and unjust? It's when the education is missing, and God's working for you, and all these ritual symbols become magical things.
Yeah.
And don't tell me it's a problem to this day. It was a problem back then also. Yeah. It's a big challenge. Now, don't get me wrong. You need all these images, but when we build the Mishkan, it'll be what I call a kosher egel. I'm going to make a different symbol of God, made out of gold, protected by the people. It's going to have kruvim, which represent returning to Gan Eden, and the theme of Gan Eden, and God's Shekhinah and being God's people. Again, that's a class on the Mishkan. That's why the Mishkan is right next to the egel, the whole story of the Mishkan. But that's why Chazal say it's out of order. First, Chet Egel came first, and then we built the Mishkan. Because I need a kosher egel. We need to go to Israel, but I need a symbol. I want to make sure that symbol, I understand it right.
Right.
Now, when they come down, let me I want to put up a chumash for you.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you there?
Yeah, sure.
Why is what we do in the Mishkan any better than what Am Yisrael did there? Is it just simply because is there nothing really inherently different? It's just like we just forgot that the egel was supposed to be a symbol and not a source of power itself, which didn't require any positive behavior from us. Is basically what Aharon was trying to do? Was that just like to build an Aharon of the like with the kruvim on it? Was that just basically it? And then the and Am Yisrael just lost the message. And
yeah.
Is that basically it?
Yeah, it's like you call them up. You call for a party, or you have a nice malvamalka, a nice party. I'll give a really bad example. In modern day weddings, I call it the first dance and the second dance at call it modern Orthodox wedding. I hope I don't get myself in trouble. The first dance, there's a mechitza, the Jewish music, the rabbis are there. It's nice. By the second dance, there's no more mechitza. There's lots of drinks. People are wild, half drunk. But the music isn't so Jewish anymore, which is a sign of the culture. Which means that they're not ready yet to be. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get myself in trouble. I'm saying too many things are maybe a little too critical. But I just bring examples from day-to-day life where I can be in a religious setting, serving God, but my lifestyle is not one that sanctifies God. Now, in the Mishkan, I'll be lighting a menorah, about giving light. I'll be teaching Torah. The imagery in the Mishkan will be super educational.
Right.
And the symbol of God is the covenant with God in the Torah.
Yeah. It's almost like having instead of worshiping, like an idol that you could think is its own self, it's almost like worshiping a banner saying, this is just as, you must behave properly, and this is not its own self. It's like, this is not the source of power itself. That's what the Torah is. The Aharon's got like the luchot inside, which has got the requirements to behave properly and the covenant with God.
It's like you can wave a flag, like any country's flag. Same thing with an Israeli flag, an American flag, any country's flag, and that can be a symbol of my dedication to the country, what it stands for, or it can be a symbol of our power and how great we are. And not and people need those symbols. The question, how you design the symbol and how you educate with that symbol, that's what's key. But you need symbols, remember?
Okay. You need symbols on the one hand, but we do have a commandment in the Torah not to make graven images, like of
another God. That's Elohim Achirim Apanai.
But doesn't it apply? We also have the command, at the end of that, about making an image of God. Right.
Serve me, but keep it simple.
Yes, but so isn't there a command not to make an image of our God, regardless of
that's why God, after the sin, reminds them, He did say that before the sin of the golden calf, it's only afterwards. Listen, Aharon doesn't get punished, does he? Aharon gets upgraded. He becomes the Kohen Gadol because he learned.
Well, I mean, his two sons do die.
What?
His two sons end up dying.
Not because they made the egel.
I don't know. I always saw that as connected to Aharon. Not that they died for the sins of the father per se, but that there was a certain degree of I don't know,
I call it
a
gava.
lack of propriety that they learned from their father, a lack of proper behavior like that.
It was all about them and not about God. They wanted a part in the play. I'm saying, but many of the commentators say that they had a problem. They didn't want to get married. They spoke up in front of Moshe. It was about gava. What's gava in English? About
arrogance.
It's all about their arrogance. It's all about them, not about God. Now, I want to simply show you, because we're going to run out of time in a minute. I want to show you what happens when they come down from the mountain, about how why it's about behavior. The first thing, when they come down, is they hear there's a lot of noise. It's a wild party going on there. Okay?
Right. So, Moshe and Yeshua have this conversation, which is
Yeshua hears the people. See the word play? It means that's like hooray, that's a loud sound, but the word ra is there. And Moshe and Yeshua said, sounds like there's a war going on. He's a general, he wants to go down. And Moshe tells him that's not a voice of victors and losers, like in tug of war, but rather it's simply a loud voice. It's just a loud noise of a wild party. Okay. And Moshe comes down, what's he see? The egel and the dancing around it. The macholot. I mean, it seems like wild dancing. Moshe gets angry, breaks the luchot, etc. He, which is a symbol of the covenant that they can't live up to it. And then Moshe tells Aharon as follows. What's he tell him? Listen, Moshe doesn't accuse Aharon of sinning. Moshe Aharon, what did the people do to you that you caused them to sin? Then you didn't sin, but you did something that caused them to sin. What we like to call no good deed goes unpunished. You mean well, but something goes wrong. Okay?
Right.
And Aharon tells Moshe, don't be angry at me. You know these people, you know the campers, they're bad. We've been leading them. We've been running this camp, this nation for the last year or so. We know their behavior, how bad they are. We know how they acted, how they complain all the time. How they've always.
So not a good look for Aharon.
Like Yechezkel says in chapter 20, they're just bad all the time. Are you surprised that that's how they're behaving? You know how they behaved in Egypt. Now they told me, make us a power, which will lead the way, because you left. Remember? We don't know what happened to him. I was saying, don't blame me. It's your fault. You didn't come back. I had to do something. I told him, give me your gold. And then he says, this is what happened. Now listen to what Moshe says in Pasach Hafei. Bayar Moshe. Moshe reaches the conclusion. Moshe sees the people keep paruahu. Paruah means wild. Yeah. Who got them wild? Keep pro Aharon b'shimtza b'kameim. Aharon caused them to get wild to their disgrace in the eyes of their enemies. See the wordplay here with paro.
Right.
Remember, paro means
what's the meaning there of the connection?
Aharon caused them to get wild. Remember, with the sotah, you make the hair wild. Like paro means wild. And Aharon caused them to get wild, but you see in this whole description, their behavior is bad. It's not a theological problem of believing in other gods. It's a behavioral problem. They're not acting in a way that's appropriate for God's people. Now, when the party goes wild, everyone joins in, but there's always the people who spike the drinks, who change the music. There's always the troublemakers. They find out who the troublemakers are, and Bnei Levi, makes judgment and finds who the troublemakers were, and they find 3,000. So they get a harsh punishment right away. And then after those 3,000 troublemakers are punished, then Moshe goes up and tells the people, listen, you did a terrible sin. I'm going to go, maybe God will give you protection from your sin and save you. And this is what Moshe tells God. Moshe goes back to God and tells him, Ana chatam hazeh chata gdola. The nation did a terrible sin. They made Elohei Zahav. That's not another God. That's a God made out of gold. They made a representation of you out of gold. They made a golden symbol of you. He's saying it wasn't a felony, it was a misdemeanor. In his admitting the guilt, he's saying that's coming back from.
How could it be a misdemeanor, though, if he's taking Shevet Levi and slaughtering people? Though?
Okay, because the people being punished are the people with the bad behavior. After the 10 Commandments, remember what God says? The 10 Commandments don't serve other gods.
Right.
But,
so you're saying there's like bad behavior, that we're not really spelling out what it is. It must have been pretty bad.
But that's what happened.
We're talking like the big three, as you said, like
That's what happens when you're symbol of God.
murder,
Is
idol
God
worship,
making you.
and adultery or sexual
Yeah.
misconduct.
Which what happens at a wild party? Remember, God said, "Don't make out of me Eloi Chesed Eloi Zahav." And instead, it's don't serve me this way, serve me this way. Mizbeach Adamai. Keep it simple, nice earth mizbeach. Right. Now, after that ego, we need something out of gold also to represent God, but it's got to be meaningful.
So hold on. This whole command you're saying Elohei Kesef Elohei Zahav Lo Tasu Lachem is only pre Cheda Egel. When we show that we can't hack it, we have to have something. God like takes that command away and gives us the Aharon. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, but then only that, nothing else. And I'll need a whole rehab project of making an educational. And I need to make a kosher egel called the Aharon out of gold. I'm going to cover it so no one sees it with the Mishkan. I'll build an altar in front of it. It'll lead us to the land of Israel. It'll be the center of our education system, where the Kohanim and the Levim are going to be. Our camp will be around that center. And I have a whole education system to make sure that we all believe in this God, but there's a reason why he's going to fight our wars, because we're serving him. And he'll help us because that's the biggest theme of Chumash. Every Tochacha talks about that. Every warning. We say it every day in Shema. Keep my mitzvot. I'll bless you. I'll give you the land good. I'll help you with your battles. Do a bad job representing me. If your behavior is bad, I can't help you. I have to punish you. So, but humans need symbols, but they have to be educational. And when the symbols become the gods, that's when it becomes dangerous. And that's why when people are just surrounded with ritual all day long, but their behavior is not proper, that's a sign of an educational problem.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, without symbols, without rituals, you don't have a religion.
Yeah.
So how to keep dedicated to halakha, but make sure it comes with proper education and understanding, that's a challenge of education today.
Fascinating. It almost like steers a bit close to the kind of the Haredi argument about the army, like that it's not the it's not the soldiers that win the army, it's the Torah mitzvah that keep the army. So where do you see the like differentiation from that?
Because people said when we cross the Jordan, Yoshua fights,
right?
But they fight, but for a purpose, because the society they're building will be just and upright. If you're fighting so you can become the next bully, I got bullied, I'll bully back. That's not Judaism. We call that the Middle East. It's the understanding that God can be on our side, but we have to be worthy of his help and need a symbol of that. So you need those symbols. That's why you need the education. That's why you blow shofar. That's exactly Shlomo's prayer when he dedicates the temple in chapter 8 in Sefer Melachim. Said, should there be a war, come to the temple, pray to remember what you're doing wrong, and ask God, admit what you're doing wrong, ask yourself what you're doing wrong, and ask God to forgive you, then he'll help you from your enemy. But I don't come as a consumer saying, here's an animal, come save me in battle. Rather, I bring some sacrifice, and it's going to be something symbolic, and it comes with a rabbi's speech, with the Levim giving the Shirah called Tehillim, giving the Musar, learning and studying, and then that deep understanding that God can help me, but it's a function of my deeds. That's why to fix the covenant, we need God's attributes of mercy. Because if God is going to be so strict on us like he was the first time around, there's no way we could survive it. We're an Amkshe Oref. Therefore, Moshe argues in the second half of the Parsha, change your attributes. Keep the same goal, the same laws, but don't be so strict like you were the first time around. Instead of being an Elkanah, instead of being a zealous God, being a merciful God, be a Kel Rachum V'Chanun. Be slow to anger, erech apayim, and not charonach, not quick to anger. And carry, don't not carry away sin, but no say avon v'fesha, carry away sin. Basically, give us a chance, give us even up to 4 generations to learn from our mistakes, and those attributes of mercy enable us to remain God's people. Now, God's attributes of mercy doesn't mean he will forgive, means he can forgive. Knowing you can forgive opens up the whole world of repentance and tshuva. And that's why tshuva comes. That's why read the Rambam in Hilchot Tanit. That when Am Yisrael is in trouble, You can't say we have to gather and ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong? What can we do better? Now you can argue what we're doing wrong and how to do better. That's called hashkafa. But that's a legitimate argument. You can argue that maturely. But to think that just blowing the shofar by itself is going to get God on your team, without having deeper meaning. Remember that shofar blowing at a war reminds you of Har Sinai and the commitment to be a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, to be a nation in the service of God by keeping his laws properly. So that's why my point is, the problem is behavioral, and it's a symbol. Aharon has great intentions, means well. It just, remember, no good deed goes unpunished. And it got wild. That's what happens. But what does God see from here? They're not ready yet to go into Israel. Now we need a national project to bring the nation back together again. That's building the Mishkan. And turns out after a year, the first generation never makes it, do they? We need another 40 years of education to finally be worthy of coming to Israel.
All righty. Well, I'm still amazed by this parallel of, on a week where Am Yisrael is demonstrating incredible military might, we have this message that don't set too much store by military might. Remember to prioritize our focus on our moral responsibility and our behavior.
To be worthy. Baruch Hashem, there's many people doing great mitzvot, the unity the Jewish people have, all the chesed we do, how we help each other. Am Yisrael doing tremendous chesed with one another, especially from the people at the people level. There's just tremendous dedication. Unfortunately, not everyone's perfect. Remember, the way we argue sometimes needs a lot of things. Sometimes the way we behave is a little bit off. But again, we have a lot of what's called zchuyot. We have a lot of reasons why God should be forgiving to us and help us. There are a lot of reasons maybe things can be bad. But knowing God can help us, but it's a function of our deeds. And remember, we're a nation. We have to work together. So we ask God, B'nai Torachamim, or save us for the sake of your name, for your reputation, help us because we're turning to you. But it always ends up, at the end of the day, that's part of our hodayah, thanking God for saving us, comes with a not just saying thank you, but acting thank you, and becoming a nation that's going to sanctify God in their day-to-day behavior.
Amazing. Shkach Rav Liebtag, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good week, everybody, and God should hear our prayers, and we should listen to our prayers as well, and make ourselves worthy of being that nation that can sanctify God.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, sponsor an episode if you can, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.